Hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Collegian Football Podcast. Here with Alexis Yoder. I'm Justin Morganstein. Alexis, exciting stuff going on with Penn State football right now. Number 4 team in the country, highest ranking since 2017. Do you remember when we were saying this summer, they'd be lucky to get out of those first 3 games 2-1?
Yep.
Here they are. They're 4-0, and their quest to win the Big Ten East starts this weekend with conference play.
Yeah, and who could forget just the year before, 2017, 2016, that team that really put Penn State back on the map. It's almost starting to seem like deja vu with this team. They can't stop winning. They're playing some of their best football right now that we've seen in a long time, certainly in recent memory as compared to 2020. So they're doing absolutely phenomenal right now, and that's going to have to continue as they start their Big Ten slate here on Saturday.
Yeah, it does have that feeling of, something really exciting starting to brew. And I also think that it's a really good indication of just, how focused they are with how they've handled practice this week.
Yep.
Because following Villanova last week, which we'll get into in a minute, they said that they weren't complacent with what they were doing in practice last week. And the fact that they can recognize that and still win games in the process, still be 4-0 during that process, and recognize those mistakes, like when you're winning games and doing that, that's huge.
Yeah.
So learning on the fly while you're winning is really big.
Yeah, especially, people always say great teams win when they're not playing at their best. And even though obviously, Saturday against Villanova was not their best effort in terms of the run game, in terms of substitutes playing on defense in the second half. But they were still able to grind out a win. And, Franklin said, and even the players said, this was not our best effort in this game. In practice, it wasn't up to our standards. That's really been the focus of what they've been talking about this week to the media. So it's clear that they're really addressing this with the team, and they're going to be a lot more focused when they play Indiana on Saturday.
And the last thing before we get into everything, it almost reminds me of the famous Franklin quote back when they lost to Ohio State in 2018. It was that they need to make that jump from being a great program to an elite program, and being able to refocus when you're 4-0 like they have this week, the way they seem to be locked in to Indiana solely and nothing else, and they have been taking practice and media sessions and everything with absolute precision and focus, and that is what elite programs do. They find ways, like we just said, to win even when things aren't going exactly your way, and that could be the case again this weekend. So the fact that they are recognizing that they have things to improve upon while still obviously having great results on the field is really important as we get into conference play this weekend.
Yeah, let's go back and review our notes from the Villanova game. Obviously, Penn State destroyed Villanova when it comes to big plays. I mean, several times. I mean, we saw it even on the first play of the game. Sean Clifford found Jahan Dotson streaking down the field on the first play of the game for either team. And, they scored 7 on it. So that's really what summarized this team's offensive efforts against the Wildcats. But run game left a lot to be desired, to say the least. I mean, Penn State only managed to gain 80 yards as a net total against Villanova. With the amount of depth they have in this running back room, that is just unacceptable. It's unacceptable for this team who boasted in the beginning of the season, in preseason, this is one of the best groups in the country. This is going to be what our offense is. This is going to be a great weapon for our offense, and they're really struggling to back up that claim so far. I mean, in the Villanova game and even before that, they're really struggling with that.
Yeah, and obviously Franklin told us after the game that Noah Kane was a little dinged up. That's why he only got the 1 carry, and he sat out for most of the afternoon. But you absolutely nailed it on the head. I mean, this group was talked about with being not only one of the best rooms in the Big Ten, but perhaps the country. And they haven't lived up to that expectation so far. And it's very early in the season still. Like, that they're going to have that game where they need it most, and they're going to come through. And
this was a wake-up call.
Yeah, no, that just goes back to what we were talking about in the beginning too. Being able to recognize your mistakes and your downfalls and your weak areas while you're still winning games is critical. And obviously, if Kane's feeling a little better this week, that helps out a lot. Mm-hmm. But even like Kevon Lee and John Lovett, like we should be seeing more from these guys right now. There's no doubt about it. And there's definitely the O-line to throw some blame towards as well. I mean, they definitely did not run block the best that we've seen last weekend. But
it was a major drop-off from their performances. I mean, we were talking so much after the Auburn game about how much time Sean Clifford had to throw the ball. And, Clifford took some sacks on his own part that, he should have got rid of the ball, thrown it out of bounds. But offensive line protection was really non-existent against Villanova for the most part. And in media, Franklin said, and, Caden Wallace, we got the chance to speak to him, they're really taking accountability, not only in the running back room, but on the offensive line. At the tight end position, they're really saying we need to make our blocking better to establish the run game. So they're really taking accountability as a group to fix this problem.
Yeah, even when we talked to Troutline last week, he was saying, even before that game, like, we got to be, like, more physical. Just not even – he said it's really basic, honestly. Like, we know how physical we can be, and we know how tough we are on the interior. So, like, there's no excuse for us not to be able to get these blocks off, to be able to protect Sean, to be able to help the offense out as a whole. So that's going to be critical to watch out for in this game. But Indiana presents some challenges as well. So that's going to be something to watch out for.
It's revenge time for Penn State. And as much as they don't want to admit it, they've been really, as they are every week, always at that 1-0 mentality. But you'd be lying if you're a Penn State player if you said that game from last year isn't on your mind still. I mean, that set the tone for what last season was with that 0-5 start. They certainly didn't get off on the right foot, regardless of that controversial call, whatever way you think it should have gone. It really set the tone for what the 2020 season was, and they're really looking to erase that memory from the mind of Penn State fans and start off the Big Ten season 1-0.
Yeah. By the way, that ball did not reach the goal line. But anyway, the key, I think, with Penix is going to be this game. Obviously, he had the big game against them last year. They're 2-2. In their 2 wins, he has played very well, actually. He's had a good completion percentage, 44 for 69, thrown for 441 yards, and has not turned the ball over. But in their losses, 6 interceptions, Alexis.
You cannot win football games if you're turning the ball over at that high of a rate.
Yeah,
it's just not possible.
They're going to have to get the right pressures on him. They're going to have to – the secondary is going to be trying to read his eyes all game. And getting him to, make those mistakes is going to be perhaps one of the biggest parts of the game for Penn State right here. But we don't know. Like, in those wins, I think he's looked rather comfortable. And while his numbers aren't what we saw from him last year, I think he's due for that game where he can break out and he can throw for – 300 yards or run for 100 yards. And that presents an issue because of his versatility. All the players have talked about just defending him this week. They go over and tape just about how difficult his versatility is to cover. And that's something that obviously they haven't really seen yet with the quarterbacks they've faced in Mertz and Bo Nix, those type of guys.
They're really one-trick ponies.
Yeah,
Michael Penix is more of a,
It's a different challenge.
Yes.
But
exactly.
It'll be interesting to watch out for. And then I also think that they're going to have to really, really look out for Ty Freifogel. And I feel like he's been there for like 6 years now.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like he's been there forever.
With the eligibility rules, I mean, can you really fault them at this point?
No. But he's still a really big impact player for them.
Absolutely.
Like his ability to work the field in multiple aspects, short game, down the sideline, across the middle, it doesn't really matter. Once he gets the ball in his hands, he's always going to try to make a play. And we've seen him have the ability to do that over the years there. So he's going to be a guy to look out for, certainly. And kind of quieting that combination down between Penix and Freifogel is going to be huge, especially considering Stevie Scott, who was their big running back in the past, is no longer with the team after he graduated last year.
Yeah.
So, yeah, offensively or defensively for Penn State, they're going to have to contain their offense by, I think, containing those 2 guys a little bit and letting other guys beat them in those areas.
Yeah, how about a look at the Indiana defense? Who are some players we should look out for there?
Absolutely has to be Micah McFadden. He is the quarterback of their defense. He's their senior leader. He was a first-team All-Big Ten selection last year, got first-team All-American nods as well. But I also want to say that they have a very, very solid secondary as well. They're getting some key guys back from injury. They have great cover corners who are able to play both down the field and in the short game. So it could be tougher for the Penn State wide receivers who have played really well. So
it's maybe one of the best secondaries they've seen.
It'll be a good litmus test. It'll be an interesting test for them because obviously if Indiana has the ability to match up, they're going to do that. And Jahan Dotson, while we've seen him be able to make these spectacular catches and really, just if it's in his area, he catches the ball. But it'll be interesting to see if he can burn them down the field or if they're going to have to work more in the short game. So that's something I guess to look out for with Penn State's offense a little bit. But I think their secondary will definitely cause some issues at times.
Yeah, let's transition into Penn State and what they really need to focus on heading into this game. Last game of 4 games inside Beaver Stadium before they traveled to Iowa, and Sean Clifford's looking as comfortable as ever. It's very reminiscent of the 2019 season. Can he keep playing like this to close out this homestand?
Yeah, I would have said last week. Well, and again, I know it's Villanova, so we got to take it with a grain of salt. But I would have said last week that Clifford is looking very much like his 2019 self, just being a game manager, which, by the way, is, I think I heard Dan Orlovsky say it on a segment this week on ESPN or something. A game manager is not a bad thing. Yeah. Like, especially in the college game, when Clifford is putting them in spots to win, like, winning with someone is just as good as him winning the game himself. Yeah. Like, him being a game manager, I think, was when he was at his best in 2019. Getting the ball in his playmakers' hands, just letting them go. Yep. That's why you have them. Like, if he is able, yeah. If he's able to continue getting the ball in Jahan's hands, getting the ball in the running back's hands once they get going, the tight ends like we saw against Auburn.
Receiving game really picks up.
Just get it there. All you got to do is get it there. And if he can continue to do that, right now he looks better than he did in 2019. Like, it's really, really encouraging. And obviously, Yurcich is a huge credit to that because Penn State has also been throwing the ball behind the line of scrimmage way more than they have in the past. Like, they're putting Sean in really ideal spots to succeed, which is just great coaching. And obviously, if Yurcich can continue that, then Clifford's stock is only going to go up from here. Yeah,
absolutely. And what more can we say about this defense? They just continue to play very consistent. I mean, obviously that second half performance, that was pretty much all bench players, substitutes, not really any of the first team guys. That left a lot to be desired, and it definitely gave Franklin some talking points after the game of we need to be better from a depth position behind our top 1, 2, even 3 guys to get deeper. But, obviously first teamers are going to have the majority of these reps against Indiana, and they've looked outstanding, as we've said. And, as you said earlier, secondary may have a field day here. Is it time for Jaquan Brisker to step up once again and give a performance like he did against Wisconsin in the season opener?
Yeah, starting defense, by the way, last week only gave up 3 points. Those last 2 touchdowns.
Only gave up 52 points of total offense in the first half.
Yeah, I mean, or 52 yards.
Yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's great, obviously. And Villanova, I actually thought, came in with a good game plan, too. So I thought that they played very well. I didn't think it was just a strength of competition type thing. But anyway, I mean, if this D-line can continue to just not even get sacks, just get pressures, and especially this weekend, getting Penix to be a little uncomfortable and not, be comfortable in the pocket and able to step into his throws, that's going to be obviously very big for them. And also stopping the run. P.J. Mustipher, I think in that first game was a little quiet, but I feel like every game since, it's almost like a Brandon Smith thing, like we said last week. He's just continuing to get better and continuing to progress, and was really good, I thought, in the Auburn and the Villanova games. So he's going to be a key guy. And, again, the linebackers, what more can you say about them so far? They have been really, really impressive, starting with Brandon Smith, who was looking as advertised with his athleticism. I mean, if you just watch him on any specific play, him either running up the gap or running towards the sideline on a run, it is really, it's lightning quick. And his quickness and his first step, it's an NFL first step.
Like, he's very decisive in where he needs to be at what time. As Franklin likes to say, sometimes you need to get the offense off schedule, and he's really doing a great job of doing that.
Yeah.
He's really making good decisions. He's not out of position, and that's what he's really going to need to do against Penix in order to make him uncomfortable. And I think you could find him in the backfield quite regularly against the Hoosiers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, him and Ellis Brooks, too, has been really impressive so far this year. Obviously, he had that huge game against Wisconsin, but he's just been really sturdy and is the definition of just like a veteran.
Yes.
Like, he's the type of guy who isn't going to ever stand out, I guess, on tape maybe to you right away. But he's just always making the right play. He knows what's going
consistent.
on. He's a leader. They're a defense that's filled with leaders. And that is something that is invaluable, really. Like, you have them in all three phases, in your secondary, your linebackers, your D-line. And having all of that combined with the talent and the skill that they have makes this defense, like we've been saying for a few weeks now, if not one of the best in the Big Ten, one of the best in the country. So, and that all ends in the back there with Jaquan, like you just said.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's get into, I think, our favorite part of the podcast. 3 keys to the game from Justin. Let's start with number 1. What do we got?
So we talked about the struggles with Penix and the turnovers. So I'm going to say try to make him throw down the field and make him into a pocket passer, because when he's on the run and he's making plays with his legs, that gets his confidence up. That gets the whole team's confidence up. Their offense is usually playing better. Make him stay in the pocket, contain. And if he's going to make a big play with his arm, you'll take your odds with your secondary, with Joey Porter, Tariq, experienced corners, experienced safeties, helping you out back there. So keep him in that pocket. Getting a sack or two would obviously be great. But like we just said, pressure. Contain.
Yep.
That's going to be good.
Let your secondary make the plays that you know that they can make, as they've proven multiple times so far this season.
Yeah.
Key number 2.
Second key is, and I don't know how healthy Noah Cain is, but whether it's Cain or it's Kevon Lee, for the running backs, it's time. This is it. This is the game. You gotta get it going eventually. And if they don't, it's probably gonna be one of my keys for next week. But they just seem so due for a game. And I've said the last 2 games that they've just been due.
Yep.
And they just are. And this Indiana D-line is one, they're solid, but it's not one of their specialties defensively, and it's something you could probably exploit. And again, the O-line has to play well. That's a big part of it. We saw Eric Wilson have his first kind of struggles last week in the run game especially. But the O-line and the running game playing in unison, being able to get the run game going, whoever it is. Like we said, whether it's Kevon, whether it's Noah Cain, love it. It's got to be somebody that's got to start it. So that's gonna be something to look out for this weekend as well.
They've really got to get that momentum going, especially in this last home game. They're going to Iowa City next week, and that certainly isn't one of the easiest places to play in the Big Ten. So getting that momentum going, getting that confidence back up for this group is imperative, and that's something they really need to get going here against Indiana.
Yeah. And by the way, before this last key, Iowa loses this week at Maryland.
Hot take.
That's my take for today.
Last one here.
The last one is take advantage of Indiana's pretty awful offensive line. They have not been great. I've watched them a couple times, and they are susceptible in both the run and the pass. And with Penn State's D-line, like we just talked about, they have some guys who have been getting tremendous pressure. Arnold Abakidi.
Got to see him in the backfield again. I love that.
Jesse, Nick Tarburton, even the interior guys, Tangelo, PJ Mustafer, whoever it is, just take advantage of that O-line. Stopping the run, getting to Penix, both things are going to be critical aspects of this game. So making sure to just take advantage of that offensive line and being able to get some sustained pressure is going to be really big for them. So that's going to be my last key this week to look out for this game.
All right, that's going to wrap it up for us here today for the Collegian Football Podcast. For Justin Morganstein, I'm Alexis Yoder, and we'll see you back here next week.